Hello, everyone. Welcome to All Caps. I'm Isaac Anderson, your host and the author of A Song of Bones and The Garden Maze. I'm joined by N.B. Clark, the author of the upcoming book, Those Who Breathe the Water, coming out this Tuesday on the 21st, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
I think we have some delay issues, but
Thank you
yes. Thank you for coming on. It is a blast to meet new authors. What inspired this book? Where did you mentioned before it has some origins and some dreams? Like, could you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I did have a dream a while ago where I dreamed had fallen into water and there were like people under the water, and it's kind of creepy. And so I was like, well, that might make a decent story, and just kind of played around with it. And different drafts came about, and eventually became its own story. Got some, I feel like, characters that I wanted to keep pushing and see how far they went. And yeah, then it became the story it is now.
Excellent. When I'm working on my stuff, my drafts are always, worlds different from each other when I'm working on them. How big? What kind of swings did you take as you're working on this thing?
So I don't know if this is a good thing to do, but usually if I have just like more or less a scene in mind, I'll write it down, see how it goes, and then kind of see what goes from there. I'll usually try to, if the main character is interesting, I really try to want to push to see where that character can go, and then just go from there. I would say a lot of times it's not the most successful way, or certainly not the most effective going about it. But that is more or less what I did for this story. And yeah, for the most part, since it's not a terribly long story, it is a novella, so it didn't get too complicated or bogged down. So I was able to more or less keep it on track, and yeah, it got to where it needed to go. I was happy with the end.
Excellent. So is this your first release, or do you have other books out there as well?
Excellent. So my first book was Another Kind of Devil. I self-published it in 2023, and this is Those Who Breathe the Water, which is coming out Tuesday. I had through ebook, and my first with an editor in the whole publishing process, which it's been a really good experience.
How has that been? I've only ever been purely indie, editing everything myself, maybe getting some friends to help edit as well, and going through that manuscript until it shines. So what's it like having a dedicated team to help you through that?
It was a really good experience. I think as the writer, you do need another pair of eyes or someone to kind of give you an idea. Sometimes where it's like that doesn't make sense, and something you've written, you're like, of course it makes sense, and then it's like, oh wait a minute, no, it doesn't. So you do need that other opinion or someone to just more or less keep you on track, so that when other readers come to it, they haven't been in your head as long and lived with the story as long. So you do want it to be its very best. So it's been a wonderful experience for sure.
What were the areas that having an editor and having that team strengthened you as a writer? Like, were there specific things in your writing that they put a spotlight on and said, this could be better, and it became better? Like, what were the before and afters?
Yeah, I would say more or less just trying to, I guess, the earlier drafts, I didn't quite push the story even further. And, my editor was more or less telling me, this, you can keep going, see where this goes, see where this goes. And I'm glad that was the case. I think certain stories, I'm like, oh, just end it here. I think I've reached a good point. But no, this one kept pushing it and kept adding more, moving forward. And I think that's all for the best. And plus, too, I think just the writing itself, when you're so focused on the ideas, just the grammar aspects of it, just tightening up the writing, a different set of eyes can really kind of give you an idea that's like, yeah, maybe you don't need 2-3 sentences here, maybe just what you need quite a bit shorter. So that's always helpful, because you don't want to bog the reader down where they get to the end of the page and they're like, I don't know what I was reading, or where it's like you just have so many details. I was like, what actually are you talking about? So it was very helpful.
Yeah. One of the things I tell myself as I'm working is don't try to be clever. Too often, I try to do something experimental or maybe, I guess, fancy,
Right.
and it feels good as a writer to do that. But then when you come back to it, 6 months in the future, you go, "What was I trying to do? I was trying to be smart, but it came off as pretentious, I guess. I'm not sure." Um, but when you're working on your story, like it's about your main character returns to her childhood home, and it has that kind of theme of like I guess nostalgia to it. Am I reading that right?
I guess a bit of nostalgia. Yeah, I could see that. It's not actually her home. It was a place she had been to
Mm,
with her family quite a bit. It was a childhood place she would visit. It was always considered very happy. And then something dramatic occurred, and since then, obviously, it's left quite a mark on her life going forward. But yeah, I could see definitely you could consider it nostalgic because certain things. It's like, yeah, in real life, not every memory stays pristine, and
true.
certainly for the main character, uh, it does not. So, and I really wanted to push the idea of trying to face your fears and return to. I know it was a bit cliche, really forcing you to go back to go through the discomfort of something, um, to basically get some kind of closure, for better or for worse.
Right. So returning to a not a home, but more of a maybe a memory from your childhood. Was that setting based on anything in your own life? I find myself whenever I'm working on stuff, I try to take like my childhood home and put it, sprinkle it around and with the characters. Do you do that as well?
No. I mean, maybe certain settings. The majority of it takes place at a lake. So, obviously just places that I've been to in the past. But no, certainly these characters are not, thank goodness, not people I know. And yeah, I don't think I really tried to borrow, certainly not my childhood or anything like that. Thank goodness, what happens to Carolyn did not happen to me. So no,
Oh,
I pretty
good, good.
much made up made up most of it. So
Well, cool. So, what drew you to write horror? Is your other story also? Well, this sounds like it's a horror novel as well. So, what draws you to horror?
that is a good question. I think just as a child, I've just always been fascinated by it. I think, there's something about being scared. I mean, horror really doesn't make much sense. Like, why would you want to be scared? Why do you want to feel that kind of discomfort? But I don't know. It's always been something I've always found myself drawn to for whatever reason. I think there's a lot of interesting morality in horror stories. You certainly have something, I mean, typically very evil, very disturbing, but a lot of
Hmm.
times it's about people who have to face these awful things, versus run from it. So I guess I mean, probably give myself more credit. I think as younger, it was more just I was drawn to it because it was scary and it was like, oh, this is it's really pushing myself. But yeah, I think there's just something about the darker side of people that's just very interesting and fascinating. No one's purely good, and horror certainly I think puts a spotlight on that.
Yeah. I have a theory that horror stories were some of the first stories ever told. If we go back far enough to where, we lived, out in the woods with a fire, maybe. I would imagine the first stories told were, to the kids to make sure they didn't go out in the woods at night. Or perhaps maybe the first story told was over the hill, that way is buffalo. So maybe that was kind of the genesis of story. I think that's kind of where story comes from. I think it's so ingrained in us at such a low level, communication, describing things that only I have seen that you have not seen, where I have to using just words put that in your head and have you understand. So I find that as that's a weird, deep thing that has survived for all of human history, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, no, I mean I can understand it. I mean we're spoiled now, modern life, certainly compared to what's come before us. But yeah, I mean life is scary, and certainly nobody likes the unknown. So yeah, I think that horror, like you said, I think you're onto something there. That it was more or less kind of maybe a way to keep yourself alive, and to warn you at the
Yeah,
at the least.
I find most of my stories they begin as comedies,
Okay,
and they always go darker than I anticipated, and they kind of I try to bring them back, and they kind of morph into thrillers.
okay,
So almost all like I write for younger readers, so 12 to 16, 17, that's about the range I aim for, and I usually always go way darker than I need to go. So reeling it back a little bit changes them to kind of funny thrillers, I guess, if how I would describe them. So who is your target audience, would you say?
Um, I should know this, right? Uh, Whoever wants to read it, I would say probably not children. Probably not children. I would say more adults. Um,
Gotcha.
is my first thought, but I mean, but honestly, whoever wants to read it is welcome to. So, but no, I think definitely my first book is not geared towards younger audiences. Um,
Gotcha. Gotcha. So moving forward, so you've explored some darker themes. Do you know what you want to tackle in a project when you begin it, or do you discover that as you go along?
Not really. I don't. I can't say I ever have like a master plan or any agenda when I start. I tend to have just a almost like a scene that really draws me. The current story I'm working on, I've been working on for quite a while now. Really, it's the intro scene. It's through multiple drafts. It's remained the same.
Yeah.
But the story itself, it gains new characters, loses some characters. When you realize this character doesn't do anything, drop them. Try to get the story to move with the characters. But no, I mean, I think I should. I would actually like to in the future try to write a story that is, a bit more plotted out and just more or less see how that goes. I have a feeling it would be quite a bit quicker than the way I write. Right now, I pretty much write when I have the time. Um, so I think overall, based on my schedule now, that would probably be a smarter way of doing it. But it is what it is, and I think too, it's more enjoyable for me at least. When you're really dedicated to something or just figuring it out as it's moving forward. It's really fascinating and rewarding too. I think I don't know how you feel with yours if you sort of suddenly realize, oh, I didn't know I could take it here, but once you do, you're like, wow, I'm so glad I didn't just remain strict and say no. It has to be plotted this way. I took a different detour and it turned into something else or something
Y-
better.
Yeah, often with my stuff, when I first began, I had maybe a hint of an outline, and I just
Mhm.
jumped right in. That took me into 1,000-page territories
Oh
with
wow.
stories that had way too many characters, too many things going on, and I had to rein it in. So, Song of Bones, not my first release, but my first like novel. Um, this is just like maybe the first quarter of that project chopped into one book to where it's digestible, I guess. So
Okay.
after I figured out, what the story wanted to be, and I had a lot of stuff written for it, I I was able to take, 4 or 5 steps back and just, plot out what actually has to happen with the characters. And like you said, some characters were just there. Um 3 characters became one character. One character was doing, I mean, delete, 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 delete. Um but yeah, I find myself whenever the characters go beyond the outline or they take like a left turn, that can be very, very fun. Oftentimes I engage that for a little bit. I try to write very loosely when they go off script.
Mhm.
And if I sense the direction is more interesting than what I've plotted, I'll I'll follow that line. But if it's not more interesting, if it's just more complicated, if it's just like here's this potential interesting visual I could have. I mean, I could find a way to put that visual somewhere else down the line in the actual plot if necessary, if I really like it. But I find myself asking, what's the most interesting thing that could happen here?
Mhm.
And if that disagrees with the outline, then maybe the outline needs to be changed a little bit. But of course, at a certain point, you got to just say, no, we just got to stick with the plan for now because I can't write forever. So
Yeah.
at some point, the story has to just be done, and hopefully, that's the best version of the story. But I don't think you could ever truly find the best version of the story. You can only ever find the good place to stop, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Because, like you said, I mean, you could write a story, for decades, the same thing, and it's, like you said, it's like you're not actually improving it. You're just, I guess, pushing it forward into a place
Yeah.
that's like you do have to cut yourself off. But that's hard. It's hard to know, when you keep thinking you can just improve or just a little more, just a little more. Yeah, I think I'm
Yeah.
still learning that where when is a good time, cut it off and then don't touch it, or just work on the grammar part. Make sure the
Yeah.
writing is tight, and then just make that the focus. Just leave the I guess story evolution. Just let it stop it.
I think that the scary thing about that is saying, you got to know when to stop. You can't keep making it perfect forever. Well, the truth is, you can keep making it perfect forever, and that's where people get trapped. Um,
True.
you got to find that balance. One question I like to ask people is like, let's say you took Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, and most people say that's a perfect book. Is it a perfect book? I think it's pretty close to perfect. But if Tolkien were given, 10 more years, like what else would you change about this, Mr. Tolkien? I think he could have made it even better because I think everything could be better. I don't think there's any cap on good, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, and I think too, when you put the time in, sometimes years, it's like you almost figure it's like, well, if I put years in, well, I can just keep going a little more, a little more, a little more.
Yeah.
So, right, yeah, like you said, it's like, well, what is perfect? Nobody can write a perfect book. And certainly, I have a lot of respect for J.R.R. Tolkien, but I mean, there are people out there who don't care for it, for whatever
Hmm.
strange reason that is. But yeah, so it's like you can't be perfect to everyone and everything. So I feel like if you just realize it's like, okay, this is it, or you just don't have the energy to put in, then it's like you really need to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I find so my rule for, is the writing good enough to press publish is it readable? Or not readable, that's the wrong word. The right word um is the clarity high?
Mhm.
Can almost anybody pick this up and understand what's happening? Is the clarity high? And then I ask, okay, is this interesting? Is something interesting? Is the If the obvious thing is happening, if you could guess what happens next, then maybe we gotta take a step back and what's the weird thing that could happen? What's the interesting thing that could happen that I haven't seen before? Um,
Right.
if the book does both of those things and it does it, along its entire length, I think you're ready. You're ready to share it around, share it or publish it, or I mean, like I said, you could keep working on it forever. That's my biggest failing is I will work on something forever. Um, you just gotta say, cut it off right here. That's enough.
Yeah. And that's when having that other, a friend or whoever's,
Hmm.
willing to read it, but also be honest with you. I mean, that's totally valuable because that person can also tell you it's like just enough, or just let you know whatever track you're going on that it's like, hey, this really isn't all that interesting.
Yeah,
And sometimes you need that kind of kick in the pants to set you back because
because
I feel like
I can get lost in making it pretty. Like I could spend a
yes,
long time
yes.
like this is very very pretty, but nothing's happening. I can get lost in that unless someone points it out to me.
Right, yeah, and it's like if it doesn't show up later or there's not a reason for it, it's like you go on, and I've made that mistake many times, going on and on and on, and someone's like, I don't care. And it's like, I think it's a fine line. I mean, you don't want to just pander to readers constantly, but I think it's true. It's like, well, you are trying to, I mean, you do want people to be interested enough to get to the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like you have to make that right call to know when to put something on the chopping block.
Do you have a dream project? You have anything that's like you've wanted to do this thing, but you're waiting to do it till it's like the right time?
Yeah, I guess it's so fuzzy. I guess I've always wanted to write within the horror genre something to do with werewolves. I've
Mm.
always found they're very interesting. But at least especially in movies, I can't say there's uh like the perfect werewolf movie or perfect werewolf book. I certainly read Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf quite a bit when I was younger. It's a graphic novel. And it's interesting. I think especially having read it probably too young, but younger, the pictures really carry that story. But the story
Yeah.
itself is very, I mean, it's a novella. It's very, very short. So I don't know. I feel like a proper side novel of kind of looking into that would be really interesting.
Are you
But
excited for from what's the director's name? Robert Eggers, I think.
yes,
He
yeah,
has a
oh,
werewolf thing coming
definitely.
out.
Definitely. Yeah, I've liked all his movies, so I have high hopes for this one. Um, I don't
That
know
would
I don't know how it's gonna go. I've heard, you always get so many different details. You don't know what's true, what's not. I've heard it's supposed to be in Middle English, so there might be subtitles. So I don't know. That to me that might be a bridge too far. But
maybe.
but we'll see. No, I'm gonna see it. Good reviews or bad, I'm still gonna go. I'll see that one in the theater.
How would you tackle werewolves? Do you have a specific like slant you'd like to take with them?
I don't even know, honestly. I think modern I feel like is a bit more interesting, at least to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but again, I haven't even written a draft. I've just always thought that would be cool to do, but no ideas as of yet, or no nothing set in stone.
I think like I would like to do something, and this might actually be what the Hulk is. Um, I'd like to do something where it's like a little bit more Jekyll and Hyde with the
Okay.
werewolf, where he changes to the wolf creature. Maybe it's a literal wolf or some kind of big old scary thing. But that thing has its own motivations and desires, and maybe both entities or both personalities are aware of each other.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how the Hulk is handled. Now that I think about it, the Hulk is kind of a modern sci-fi werewolf almost, or
That's
maybe
interesting.
Jekyll and Hyde did it first. Then that was the first kind of modern werewolf.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting because I mean, I don't know with the what would you say, like the folklore of like full moon changing, but that is really interesting. I think Jekyll and Hyde probably was the first.
Yeah, because I think I'm sure Eggers is drawing from this, but I've read some of they're like court cases, like legal cases where like someone was charged with being a werewolf, like in the
Oh,
Middle Ages. Like you can actually read them. They have them scanned. You can read these documents of this such and such person at this time killed this person, and they said he was a wolf at the time, and he claimed to be a wolf at the time, and so there's some weird weird stuff in the water at the time when all that stuff was
yeah.
happening.
No, that would be fascinating. Yeah, to read all that. Um, yeah, it makes you happy that you didn't live back then when
Yeah. I wonder
you could
how
be
much
charged
of
with
it
being a
was
werewolf.
like weird psychedelics or just things they didn't understand.
Sure. Well, yeah, and mental health issues too. I mean, that was, no one really knew what that was.
Mm.
So, but yeah, that would be a fascinating idea. Or certainly, yeah, but we'll see. Maybe the movie will have that. I don't know.
Perhaps, perhaps. He did some interesting things with Nosferatu, and so yeah. I mean, the werewolf one looks way more gnarly than that I think I would normally see. But I'll wait for reviews. I'll see how good people say it is. But yeah, it looks very well done. I'll say that much. So
Yeah, I'll give him that. He does his research, so I'll give him that.
yes, yes. Are there any like if you were put in charge of like a period piece, you've mentioned you enjoy the werewolf kind of legend. Are there any other like slices of time you'd like to explore? Does the historical accuracy interest you at all, or is that more like an interesting thing that somebody else does?
Oh, it does. No, I definitely like historical fiction, and nonfiction. Roman history I've always found very interesting. Not a timeline you typically see horror stories set in, but that I would definitely I would consider. Yeah, that would be a great. I would consider that because I do feel like medieval Europe has been
It's
kind
been
of.
done to death.
Yeah, which I mean, it's not, I mean, a lot of those stories came from medieval Europe, so it makes sense.
That's
But
true.
yeah,
Well,
it wouldn't be bad to change the setting and time.
the Roman times have kind of been monopolized by like, biblical stories. That's kind of like where biblical fiction likes to hang out. They hang out in that era. So it might be interesting to take some of those like werewolf legends or vampiric legends and bring it back a little bit more to Roman times and see how that culture would handle that. What would their version of that thing be? I think that'd be interesting.
It would, yeah, and I think there's a great book. It's nonfiction. It's called SPQR. I think the
Mm,
author's Mary Beard. Don't quote me on that, but it's amazing. I mean, it is a wealth of information all about Roman history from the founding to the fall. And I think if I remember correctly, there were different festivals they would do. I think Lupercalia was one, um, which had to do with. I don't think I wouldn't say it was had to do with werewolves per se, but I think you could probably get some kind of transformation tale and put it into a Roman setting. So, but yeah, that's definitely something to consider. I would say if I finish, within the next 2 years, I would consider moving. Maybe doing a Roman werewolf story. That'd be very strange, but something to consider.
yeah. Strange is good, I think. Unique and strange. You could do a really cool cover too. You can make it look like, some really classic like the stuff they put on pots they find. That'd be an
Yes,
interesting.
yeah, that would be interesting. Hey, that's half the battle. I feel like with books is
Yeah.
get the cover to get somebody to be interested, and I think to do that, like you said, make it weird because people are like, what on earth is that? What am I looking
Eye
at? So,
catching. Yeah, yeah.
right.
So what is your next project? I think you hinted it earlier in the show. What's on the horizon for you?
Well, I'm uh, still kind of muddling through it. It is a mystery. I don't want to give out too many details. I have learned a lesson though. If I'm ever going to do mysteries again, don't write it out of order. I've been trying to, because when I originally started writing it, it was more or less time allows,
Right.
and I would basically just be like, okay, I have a scene in mind, write as much as you can, finish it, move on, next day or, a couple days as work allowed. Try to write something else, but it wouldn't be in order. It was more or less just write the scene that seemed right at the time. And now I'm like, oh, that was a terrible idea because trying to stitch it together and make sense, have things add up in the end. Oh, this is going to be hard. This is a challenge. So I'm still trying to work through it and get it so it actually makes sense. So definitely has horror elements within it,
Hmm.
which that was the most fun. But yeah, trying to make it so it makes sense and the mystery, the clues add up. That's been a bit of a challenge.
What advice would you give for writers just starting out who want to get into horror, get into mysteries, or just get into writing in general? What advice would you give them to set them on the right path? They waste as little time as possible.
Um, I guess just write. It's. I mean, that's not really helpful advice, but I mean, it's what you got to do because I think I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many excuses you can give, valid and not valid, to not write. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard, if you work full-time job, you have, various obligations. If it's not your main vocation, yeah, if you don't make time for it, the words won't appear on the page.
Yeah.
And I think too, maintaining that that interest or that spark where you just really want to see where it goes. If you don't, at least for myself personally, I find if you're not writing every day or two, or just, constantly trying to push yourself to write something, the spark does go away. And then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, I've got whatever, 50, 60 pages. And then you just don't care. And then it's like, well, what's the point? So yeah, I guess I would just say, just push yourself to write, and, and do what I did. Don't write it out of order if you can. uh, yeah, that's what I would say. I certainly, like I said, I'm no expert by any stretch. Um, but I think, whatever you like doing, um, you have to do it. You can't just talk about doing it.
True. True. What do you do when you're not writing? You mentioned you work full time.
Yes. Yeah, work, I would say, other interests outside of write. Well, I do try to read a lot. I will say I do try to always carve some time aside every day to read, and just try to read a variety of things. I think it's very easy. You know, it's, especially now as an indie author, it's hard to find new authors out there. So, I do use um, YouTube more or less to try to find new people. But yeah, no, just more or less just try to read new things, different interests, nonfiction, fiction. I don't know if that necessarily, makes my writing better, but I think uh, just seeing what other people can do, it certainly can't hurt.
I find myself like when I was working through some of the second drafts for Song of Bones, the next part anyway, I was reading a lot of Stephen King's Dark Tower.
Mhm.
And a lot of the characters in the story started sounding a lot like Dark Tower characters. So I have to be careful when I'm reading as I'm writing, because it'll leak into what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think trying to read, at least within the horror genre, something that's not quite what you're doing. I agree with you. Yeah, because it's like, well, I'm not, you certainly don't want to take somebody else's characters and suddenly it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just being a copycat. So yeah, that is difficult to do. And like you said with Stephen King, he's so prevalent that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like trying to find different authors becomes quite the challenge. Because even, I mean, if you can go to a bookstore, I mean, it's just Stephen King all over the place. Which,
True.
but I mean, he's really the pinnacle of achievement. I mean, that's what I think everybody wants to be. Have the ability to churn out a book every year, and and I mean, how many decades has it been since he
Oh
started?
man,
And
60s or 70s for him.
yeah, so I mean, that's incredible. So, say what you will. I mean, I can't say I haven't read any of his current books for quite a while, but I still I admire the guy. I admire the work ethic for sure, being able to
Absolutely.
produce that. So
What are there any hidden gems you'd recommend, like book wise, like your favorite little books that no one's heard about?
gosh, let's see. I'm currently reading a book called Contortionist Handbook. I haven't finished it, so I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to like it. But right now, I think it's really good. It's about a guy who's a forger, keeps changing his identities.
Mm.
It was labeled horror, at least in the library. I'm not sure right now if that was uh, mislabeled, but that so far I like that. The author, I think, is named Clevenger. So
Clevenger.
yeah, Craig Clevenger, I believe is his name. So I had just heard of him, but I'm sure other people out there are like, oh, he's not, I've already heard of that guy, but no, that's been very good. And yeah, but no, I would say I'm still trying to find new authors, and keep going from there. I will say though, if I do find a book that I really like, I usually am kind of afraid to read a second book by that person, because
Yeah.
I always find then you end up comparing the two, and then it's like, oh, well, that wasn't as good, and then kind of it ruins it for you for a bit.
True. True. Right now, I've been working through. I got this the thrift book, so there's no cover, but Legends, like a bunch of short stories put together by Robert Silverberg. It
Okay.
has the original what's the Duncan Egg, the George R. R. Martin short story is
Yeah.
first in this book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I'm reading it because I'm writing a short story for an anthology, which is a good segue to support our Kickstarter for Rings of Adventure, the anthology with all the authors in it writing amazing things. Okay, then we so I've been in like short story mode. I've been trying
Okay.
to read, how you can condense a big idea into a small thing, and the first one we're getting off suggestions now, so I recommend Legends.
Okay.
It has a very fun collection of not really short stories, more like novellas, collection of
Mhm.
novellas. That's been really fun. I've also been reading. I don't have it. It's gone. It was what's the whale? The thing about the whale, whale fall, whale fall. That's a
I've heard of
good book.
that. I've heard of that.
I read that book before it became a movie,
Okay.
so it's not very often I catch it before it happens. But yeah, that was just a fantastic little story. So the chapters aren't numbered traditionally. It's just every chapter begins with how much oxygen he has left in his tank.
Interesting.
So
That's cool.
as it goes on, you're watching the oxygen go down, and it was very well done. He wrote
Nice.
he wrote being stuck in a well the most interesting way possible. So I recommend Whale Fall, and I forget who wrote it. It was a guy who wrote it, someone. Um, so yeah, so kind of like because selfishly because we have the Kickstarter. Do you have any favorite short stories, or do you have an advice for writing short stories? Like, how would you handle that?
Well, I would say short stories. I feel bad. I don't remember the author's name, but there was a collection that came out a while ago called Everything Everything
Mm.
that was really well done. It's a whole range of stories. One's about Viking. I'm trying to remember. One is about a guy like down on his luck, and he's trying to get. There's more to the story. I'm not certain about. This guy's trying to like fix up a house for I think it was his dad, and he's getting all these sea creatures in an aquarium. But I mean, the stories themselves, they're so descriptive, and maybe not a lot is happening, but they're just really descriptive. They really give you that
They're
they're
cozy.
very was that
They're cozy.
I wouldn't call them cozy. I would say they're very human. Like the most of
Mm.
the main characters, they're not the greatest people on earth, but there's something very compelling about these people. You just kind of want to see, a lot of them. It's like, can you mess up even further? What's going on here? Uh, but yeah, that one I really enjoyed, and now I'm kicking myself because I really wish I remember the author's name.
You said it's called Fires Burning Everywhere.
No, everything ravaged, everything burned.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it's not new, but I really enjoyed that. I've read it several times over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say his writing style, it's just so descriptive without being overdone, and I think that's a hard line to walk.
Yeah.
At least for myself, where you want to be engaged, you really want to see the scene, but you don't want it so overdone that sort of like you need to take a step back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's the hardest thing to do, I feel like. It's really easy just to word vomit on a page and say, okay, that's the scene, I guess. But then to go and pick through that and find, because oftentimes I find if I write 500 words, there's maybe 40 words in there that I actually need, and I
Yes.
got to go through and I got to find those. Um, so I've tried to write more frugally.
Okay.
I think that just slows me down though. I just need to word vomit more. Um,
Yeah, I think with short stories too, that you are required to have a bit of an outline. I can't say that because I did. I have had a story in Garbology, which came out. It's a short story collection. I think it came out 2024. Different horror stories. I think some is weird fiction. It's a big variety. It's a lot of really good short stories in there. A lot
yeah.
of really good authors. Um,
Sounds like our collection. Back our
yeah, there you
Kickstarter,
go.
Rings of Adventure.
Exactly.
Google it.
Yeah. Yes. It's yeah. You got a lot of really talented stories in there, and just a good variety. But Yeah, I would say for that one, I did not try to explore the characters or just sort of, experiment. It was more or less okay. I had an idea in mind for this. I had the ending in mind, and then it was like, okay, just get beginning to end and be quick about it. I guess that, but again, I don't exactly. I wouldn't say I write a ton of short stories. If I do start something, it's probably going to be quite a bit longer. So,
Right. Yeah. I found myself when I first started, I had two ideas I wanted to do. I had a sci-fi idea and I had a fantasy idea. So I went fantasy because I thought that'd be easier. I didn't have to figure out math or science and all that stuff. Um, I I dipped my toes in the sci-fi first just to see, if I could explore that well enough. And I decided that, I should choose something a little bit easier than that.
mhm.
So for the short story, I'm dipping back into sci-fi again. I'm trying to, figure out how I would approach that. Because I love things like one of my favorite books is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle.
Okay.
And the way he writes is just gorgeous. He has a gorgeous way of writing, and he's always clear. And I never wonder what's going on. I never lost. It's just beautiful.
Mhm.
And I would love to do a sci-fi that is more in line with that kind of fantasy, writing wise, while still remaining sci-fi.
Gotcha.
So, what makes something sci-fi in my mind? Like Star Wars is not sci-fi. Star Wars is you got to go rescue the princess in the castle. That's a
Mhm.
fantasy problem. A sci-fi problem is we've figured out a way to freeze oxygen. What happens when you freeze oxygen? So it's a weird problem we have to tackle now that we haven't really explored in everyday life. Like uh, Isaac Asimov did this with robots in like the 60s and the 50s because robots were just kind of an idea in the future and like maybe this thing could happen. So he explored these science fiction ideas of how would humanity deal with intelligent robots walking around with developing emotions. And so that's sci-fi. So I'd like to do sci-fi that explores weird problems, but with the pros of like nice fantasy, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense. So that's
Yes.
kind of what I'm exploring with this story, which it may have been too big of a thing to grapple with for this first
Okay.
one. But yeah, like you said, you just got to pick an idea, you got to pick a character, and you got to just follow that one little thing through. So the first draft, I think I chose too many things to follow. But the second
Yeah.
draft, I think I'm starting to figure out, exactly what the story wants to be, and that's been fun to go through.
Yes. Yeah. Well, also too, I admire anybody who takes on sci-fi because I feel like there's so much research you have to do because
Yeah,
the readers of sci-fi I feel like are not fantasy. I mean horror for sure, but fantasy horror. Whatever happens, nobody needs a scientific explanation. I feel like sci-fi readers
true.
like they want that. They don't want any you know made up stuff. So I think that's if you can make it work. I know like Andy Weir. I haven't
Oh
read
yeah.
any stories, but yeah, I mean to me the amount of research that goes into that to make the explanations, I'm like hats off to you. So
Yes, I had to. So for the short story, so the anthology's theme is rings.
okay.
So everyone's writing something to do with a ring of some sort. So I chose tree rings.
Oh, okay.
So once we get into space and we access to asteroids and all that stuff out there, then gold, diamond, silver, platinum is all almost worthless
Mm,
because we have infinite supply of it now. What we don't have infinite supply of that's actually rare out there are trees, and wood, things that are like trees and wood. So the story centers around a survey team who goes to planets that may or may not have something that's like wood or like trees. So often they find things that are pretty close to wood and they chop it down. They're able to, say this is a good plant to visit to harvest more wood.
okay.
They come across a planet, they chop down some trees, they actually have tree rings in them.
Mhm.
And that's very rare. So to actually have a tree ring, you need to have a plant that has a period of dormancy. And
Okay.
on Earth, we get that because our planet has a tilt, therefore it has seasons, and therefore things, fall asleep in the winter. Not all trees on Earth do this. If you actually go down to the equator, you can find rings in the trees, but they're very, very, very subtle. And
I
there are
never knew
some
that.
trees down that they don't have any rings at all because they just grow all year long. So you chop them
Oh,
down, it's just solid wood all the way through, no grain. So the story centers around that. That's like the sci-fi dressing. Like the story's not about that, but that's just what I had to. That's the research I had to do to make it feel like a sci-fi story, and
okay.
that was so frustrating to do. But I felt very smart after learning all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you at least come away with knowing, kind of being a semi-expert, or maybe, a full expert in the
Yeah,
subject. So
I
there's
can
nothing wrong with
sound
that.
smart to somebody else who knows nothing about trees. If I bump into somebody who really knows about trees, I might find out very quickly that I'm wrong about everything. But until I meet that person, I feel very smart, and I think I sound very smart as well.
Hey, that's half the battle.
Half the battle, yeah. Would you like to play a quick little game?
Sure.
So, since you're an expert in horror and in horror creatures and monsters, there's werewolves and people that breathe the water and things like that. I put together a game called Scary or Sad.
Okay.
So, we're going to go through some classic, famous movie monsters, and you're going to tell me, is this a actual horrible creature, or is this a misunderstood poor soul? And we'll pick your brain on that. So
Okay.
the first one here is Gollum.
Oh man.
Is Gollum a scary, scary guy, or is he just a misunderstood little guy?
I'm gonna go with misunderstood.
Misunderstood?
Yeah.
He sure did choke out his friend quickly, though.
I was gonna say, I was like, he's a terrible friend. Yeah, but I don't know, because I mean, he was possessed, so
What was he?
ring,
Does the ring possess you, or does the ring just tempt you?
yeah,
Is it the
maybe
same as possession?
that's a good differentiation. I guess I don't know. It was supposed to be what the ring. He was supposed to play its part. The ring. That was my thought. The ring controlled him. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Begrudgingly, I'll say he's sad.
oh yeah, poor sad little Gollum. Okay, I'll accept that answer. This next one might be a little bit harder to suss out. Is Mulan,
Oh,
is
he's bad.
Mulan scary or is misunderstood? Poor Mulan here.
He's scary. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think he has many redeeming qualities. He's not.
I don't remember this movie that well. This is the Mongol horde, right? This guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Was
The
he
leader.
named?
Shan Yu, I think.
Shan Yu?
I don't know, but yeah, if I remember correctly, I don't think he's a good dude. I don't think he's sad at all.
Think of all the little baby Shan Yus. Think of they're over there. China's got this big wall. I bet China's really nice. I don't know what his place is like. Maybe everyone's really sick and skinny. Maybe he's just trying to, do a little killing, do a little pillaging as they did back then.
Yeah.
But he does look very scary.
I can't. I wouldn't want to meet him. Whether in China or Mongolia, I wouldn't want to meet him. So
maybe if the animators had designed this guy to look a little bit more, just not so much yellow eyes and angled brows. Maybe if you looked a little bit nicer, maybe. Even his bird looks angry.
Yeah, I'd say trim the eyebrows. Yeah, that might help him out a little bit.
Okay, maybe wear something more colorful. Don't stand in such dramatic backgrounds and things like that. Okay, this guy's scary. Scary. Okay, this next one is diabetes. I forgot I made these. I made these really quickly a while ago. I forgot what was in this list. So is diabetes scary or just sad and misunderstood?
So to be clear, it's not Jabba. It's the disease, diabetes.
Now, do you think Jabba has diabetes, or is this just him?
Was it oh god, was it Spaceballs where it's Pizza the Hut?
Yeah, Pizza the Hut.
Yeah, he probably has it.
He's probably bad.
I'm not a Jabba fan. I'm gonna go. He's just nasty. Yeah, I'm gonna go with scary.
He's scary. Yeah, I think if you took this, if we were in the Star Wars world and this was like real, Jabba's a terrifying person.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, let's. He's not misunderstood. Yeah, I'm gonna go with scary.
Okay, really, really scary. Okay, here's the final one.
Okay.
I think I remember what it was. I saved the best for last. Okay, is a wet owl
Ugh.
scary or just misunderstood? I think these things are. I don't think we need them.
Um,
We can
I'm
find
gonna go
something
with
else to hunt
misunderstood.
small animals.
Yeah. Oh, I hear them all the time. Yeah, I should probably say scary since they keep me up, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go with misunderstood. I feel like they still serve a purpose, so we'll go with misunderstood.
Did you know that owls don't have traditional eyes?
Yeah, what is it? They can't turn their eyes. They got to turn their head, which
Yeah,
seems
because
very
they're
inconvenient.
not spherical. They don't have spirit. Their eyes are cones, literally.
Huh?
They're
I didn't know
round
about
and
the
they go
cone.
back to points. They're like they can't move them because they're immovable. They're like they don't have traditional. I don't know. Like I'm sure there's a technical word for what kind of eye they have, but they're the only things like it.
Huh?
They're
I don't. I guess I don't feel too bad for them if you can see in the dark.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, they. I'll go with misunderstood. I don't know. The guy on the left, he's just so he's having a bad day. So
This this picture I found is an owl just someone has just a faucet over the owl. So I don't know what they're doing or what the owl did to deserve it, but they're just hosing down an owl.
yeah, a little
Um,
context to the picture. I think that would be helpful. If that's
yeah,
animal abuse caught on camera, or if he
maybe I
deserved
don't.
it. I
Maybe
don't
he
know.
deserved it.
Yeah,
I think the owl. Okay, thank you for playing. Are they scary or are they sad?
oh,
Uh,
it's fun.
I think you answered correctly for all of them. I don't think there were any right or wrong answers there. So when you're doing your horror, like, do you have traditional villains in your horror? Like, are they like straight up evil, or do you go for like a misunderstood kind of thing?
Um, I guess both in a way. I think it depends. It depends on what the person did. I think
Mm,
there are some things where you can maybe try to frame it in a way to say, well, let's have some sympathy, and other things where it's like, no, there shouldn't be sympathy for certain things. Um, but yeah, I definitely am interested in, what you would consider an evil person,
hmm.
more or less just like why would you do that, or why isn't there something inside you to stop you from doing something that like that?
Yeah,
Um, so, but yeah, no, that's also something to consider for future stories too. It's because it's not, I mean, vast majority there's no black and white, evil person, but there certainly are people who've done
yeah.
mind-bogglingly evil things. Um, so yeah, I think it's just something to consider. Every story it should be a little bit different.
For my stuff, if I'm doing fantasy stuff, um, I try to go more black and white because that just feels fantasy, if that makes sense. Well, for Song of Bones, the villain, his motivations have not quite been revealed yet
Okay.
in the story. But he has, I feel like, good motivations. Like in his mind, he's doing the right thing. He's doing it in a knowingly nasty way because he's angry, but he's doing the right thing. Whereas like something like the Garden Maze, my novella, the bad guy's just he's just bad. He's just evil.
Yeah, just
Um,
just born like that.
just
Or
born like that. Maybe. Well, I mean, he was probably born. He was probably a prince in some castle who got everything. He was like an evil Cusco from
okay.
Emperor's New Groove. That's probably where he started out. He wasn't. He didn't have a good hardness to him or anything like that. No sunshine. Just just pitch blackness. And
Okay.
it's fun to have both kind of characters to explore that kind of evil.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's trying to, because also you want it to seem, these characters to be, not cliched, where,
Yeah.
but I think sometimes, it could be taken too far, where it's like, not every evil person needs to have, the sad background where, oh, we need sympathy for them. I mean, I think there is sometimes a cutoff where it's like, okay, this person has free will, and if they continue to do these things, well, yeah, they've chosen to be
Yeah.
evil. But
That's kind of how I, when I outline my stories, I do it. I don't do it very much plot wise. My outlines are very character focused.
okay.
Oftentimes, that first draft of an outline, I guess, is I identify what's my character's just their flaw, like what's their core flaw, and then I extrapolate from that. Like I'll map out, okay, around chapter 5, I need to give the character the opportunity to fix themselves.
Mhm.
If they do this, they will fix themselves. And usually I have my character fail this first little thing. And then they'll go deeper into their own weaknesses, or they'll find a new avenue that is related to their core problem, and we'll go down that road. So for villains, I feel like it's kind of the same thing. They're given opportunities, like I think really good ones, given opportunities they could change this if they like. I can think of an example. Um, like let's say you have some guy who's like he wants to save his family. He'll do whatever he can to save his family. So he's like being a bad dude out there. And he's given the opportunity like, hey, this might help out your family. This is a good thing that could help you and your family, but
Mhm.
it doesn't quite give the satisfaction of getting one over on that guy. So he decides, I'm going to go down this darker road because it feels better, and I'm angry. He goes down that dark road. So main characters do that, and I feel like good villains also do that as well. If you have that kind of villain who could change at the end but doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. I think weaving in human nature. Yeah, because it's like everybody has the you know not the most favorable characteristics, just woven within. So yeah, I could see that where it's like you have the option to be good, but human nature just more or less will hold you back. So that's interesting.
What's your favorite kind of villain to work with, like in that paradigm?
I guess I would say someone very similar where it's like you have a choice, and it's like why do you keep choosing what's wrong, and is it due to human nature, just flaws? Because I think it is easy to say, oh well, as the reader, oh what's right, what's wrong. But I think how what's happened to you in your past, how you're shaped, yeah, certainly has an effect. So yeah, I guess long-winded way of saying, I would think the person who chooses wrong, even though they know that what they're doing, they could be doing it right.
Cool. Well, this Tuesday, Those Who Breathe the Water by N.B. Clark is going live on Amazon. You can pre-order right now, correct?
Yes, yeah, the ebooks are available now, and then you get the paperback on Tuesday when it's launched.
Very cool. I bet that's exciting.
It is, yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. So, and I hope everybody enjoys it too.
Very cool. Are there any other shout outs you'd like to give before we end the show?
Big thank you to Rod Gilly, who's the editor on the book. Really helped me out with that, and just appreciate everything he's done. So thank you, and yeah, I would just say thanks to everybody who shows an interest. It's much appreciated.
Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter, or X, and I do have a Goodreads page as well, so you can find me there.
Very cool. I think if I haven't, I'll be sure to link both in the description below. Also, last question: who did your art?
Mariah, her name is included on Amazon, but
Oh, okay.
Mariah did the beautiful artwork, so I'm very grateful to her for doing this drawing, because I mean, Lord knows I am no skilled with drawing at all, so I'm very grateful for her for making it look so good.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You have been a blessing. Thank you for joining us on this amazing episode. I think 40 or 50 of all caps. I lost count a couple ago. Be sure to follow NB Clark on Twitter and on Goodreads, and be sure to come and join our Kickstarter, backing the Rings of Adventure. Over 30 short stories released every day in the month of December, including a sci-fi story that's maybe overcomplicated and crazy. Thank you all for coming, for joining.